Lisa and Robyn are two fun friends diving deep into conversations where nothing is taboo. They believe in eating dessert before dinner and wearing the bikini. They're allergic to labels, authority, and cheap shoes. Currently, they're launching themselves through life being the good time, bold enough to take risks and inquisitively asking, what's next? They hail from New Hampshire, but they could be anywhere dressed in cute clothes. If they had to share a tombstone, it would read, "Curiosity killed these cats." Your hosts, Lisa and Robyn on the mic.
Welcome to Lisa and Robyn on the mic. You are listening on WSMN 1590 AM, 95.3 FM. You can watch, stream, and listen on WSMN.live as well as Facebook and YouTube. We are here every Thursday. Good morning. Robyn's taking pictures. We are here every Thursday, and today I'm excited. Hey, Robyn.
Hello, good morning. Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday. I'm excited because we have a guest.
Yes, we do.
And he is a much requested guest.
Talking about something that we love.
We love, and so many people talk to us about having someone come on the show and for us to talk about this. We're talking about money today. So today we have Daniel Hr2, Senior Director of Education at the Jumpstart Principal Liaison to the nation's teachers, overseeing the Jumpstart National Educator Conference and the Jumpstart Financial Foundations for Educators programs. He works closely with consultants on the Jumpstart Financial Inclusion Initiative and Check Your School campaign. He is a strong advocate for personal finance education, which we are going to be talking about today for the next 2 hours. He also served as the president of the New Hampshire Consumer Credit Association and was a 2-term member of the Professional Standards Boards within the New Hampshire Department of Education. He served a 6-year term with the National Consumers League in Washington, D.C., that must have been a fun place, and was the past vice chair of the board of directors for the New Hampshire Higher Education Assistance Foundation. Additionally, he served as a member of the New Hampshire Children's Savings Account Program Commission. He has so many other qualifications in here, but I'm going to stop there and just welcome Dan. Hello.
Well, good morning, and
Good
thank
morning.
you both for having me today.
We are so excited to have you.
We are excited to have you here.
So many people call us and talk to us and write in that we need to talk about money because we talk about all kinds of things, relationships, I don't know, mindset, fun, good things to do on the weekends.
Adventures.
We talk about everything.
Recipes. Children.
Food. But what we love to talk
Clothes.
about, what we love is money because it funds our world. And I was talking to my friend Teresa and she mentioned that I should have you on. Can you tell us a little bit about what the Jumpstart Coalition is?
Sure. So this is kind of a two-part story. The first is we organized the New Hampshire Jumpstart Coalition, now going in our 25th year. And that is we are a separate, nonprofit, state-affiliated with the national organization, which was created in 1995. One singular mission, and that's to help kids learn how to manage their money.
Woohoo!
So I, as a former reformed banker, I got my heartstrings wrapped around this idea 25 years ago. So I started this organization here in New Hampshire, and it's a completely all-volunteer organization, including me. And, it's incredible to know how passion can get things done. So we do a fair amount of things with a limited amount of resources, and resources not only include financial resources, but also volunteer capacity resources. So there are limitations in anything you do, but I can tell you that over 25 years, the changes in how not only you manage your money and how you spend your money and how you earn your money, but the changes in how kids view that, and that is changing rapidly, and I can tell you as rapidly as since COVID. So it's a continuing challenge, and we'll see where it all goes. But I'm loving it and have loved it now for 25 years.
And how old are the children that come into the Jumpstart program?
So Jumpstart advocates through K through college.
Nice. So we're talking a kindergarten.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
Love
we have a program in New Hampshire we call I Can Save. And it's really for the little guys, second graders, because research continues to show that kids develop money habits at the age of 7. They become consumers at the age of 7. And so we target that. And at 7, all you can really focus on is needs versus wants. So we have a program called I Can Save. We go to the elementary schools. We do a 20-minute presentation, PowerPoint presentation with images, and I'll tell you a side story. And we just identify needs versus wants, and then we give every student what we call a money box, and it's current version of a piggy bank. It includes 3 slots for saving, spending, and sharing, because that's part of our program, is to also the importance of sharing, and it's been a blast. So I don't know, I can't remember all the years anymore now. It seems like, but it was a number of years ago when one of the current singers was so popular, and I won't mention his name, but we were putting up images, and one of the images was glass of milk. Is that a need or a want? So we would say, if it's a need, you clap your hands. If it's a want, you raise your hands. So they would clap, and then we'd put up candy, and they put up a hand. And then we put up the image of this one CD of this one particular singer, and everybody put up their hands as a want, except this one little girl in the front row who kept clapping.
Oh.
And we said, well, honey, that really is a want. And she goes, oh, no.
I need him.
I need him. She's 7 years old.
That was me.
Yeah.
That was me.
Actually, I thought you did look a little familiar.
I'm little for my age.
Yeah.
I can still trick or treat.
There you go.
And I do think the need versus want analogy is perfect for us at all ages.
Of course.
And there are times when I know that I should be raising my hand, but I'm clapping, just like that little 7-year-old girl.
I used to say for years how the Super Bowl ads leading up to the Super Bowl really upset me because, again, research shows that children learn from their parents. And so you'd see these ads, and Dad go to Best Buy, and the big screen TV. You got to have that for the game. Well, the message he's sending to the kid is that want is really a need, and we've now reversed all of this. Mm. So they start forming their own habits by observing their parents.
Mm. So I read this book last year called The Psychology of Money. It's a teeny book. I swear it's maybe 100 pages. You'd read it in an afternoon. But what he talks about is it's really just money is an inanimate object, and it's how you view money that will determine how you have money.
Sure.
And I do think of it like when I have friends or family members, and I know that so-and-so's a saver. Like I have one friend, they're savers, and their husband's retired, and she's like, but we still need to work. What are we doing? And he's like, no, we did everything right that we were supposed to do, and now it's time. And she doesn't know how to lay off the gas. That planning and saving and worrying and making sure, but there is a time for, okay, you did everything you were supposed to do, and now you get to retire. But that mindset is like, well, I don't know, for a rainy day or something else, where you have someone who's like, hey, are you planning for retirement? I have no plan for retirement. I hope to die before I have to retire because I don't have a plan for it. And that's all psychology. That's just your mind around it.
I think that we've talked about it on the show. I think that once I learned that money is a tool, and really adopt that philosophy of that money is a tool instead of something that's to be coveted, or it's, we're hoarding it, or we're feeling like it's always coming from a lack-minded place. And I'm always talking about our school systems, like we should be raising our children of who do you want to be, and, how do you want to be, instead of what do you want to be. And I feel like we all grew up, I wouldn't say in a lack of ignorance, but money was very different in our households growing up, and you grow up in the 70s and the 80s, and you think about what we learned, just looking back, being able to reflect the relationship. We're learning the relationship that our parents have with money. And it's kind of like anything, if you're, we have to be a pattern interrupt if we're going to change that.
Yeah, if our parents weren't great with money, we definitely have to unlearn whatever they taught us.
I did. And I had twins, and my kids all of our family lived away. And so when they were little, I would always just say, go get gift cards. Give gift cards. It's the easiest thing to do. It's shipping, because, they're little and they're always changing their mind about what they want. So we would always have a day after their birthday, and they would go and spend. We'd go to Toys R Us, and we would get a shopping cart, and I'd say, you have this much to spend. So every time they got money, I mean, my kids have had a bank account since they were 3. And every time you put money in, we divide it out. There's money that you're going to save. We call it money that you're going to save, and then you have your play money that you can spend. So dividing it into 2. So we would go through Toys R Us, and they're like, I want this, I want this, I want this. And I said, okay, well, you have enough money that you can buy this and this. So a lot of times we would fill the cart up. He's like, well, I can't decide. I'm not sure what I want. A lot of times she would go in. But they were learning very young. It also stopped them from going into the store and being like, can I have this? Can I have this? And I was like, well, you have some money. So I remember one time we're standing at the checkout, and my son is very textile. He's very texture oriented. So there's this squishy skull. It's around Halloween. You squeeze it, and all the little organs and stuff come out of the eyes, sockets, and he's really, really, really wanted this. It was like $5 or something. It's literally, And I was like, well, you have money. You can buy it if you want. And he's like, well, okay, well, how much will I have left if I spend it on this? And I'm like, you're going to have like $2 left. And he's like, no, don't want to spend it.
Yeah, just the conscientious decision-making process of, if I have this, how much money will I have over? I learned early on, how many hours do I have to work for this? Because I always had jobs. I was babysitting. I loved money. Like, I would paint pictures and sell them at the bus stop.
And you don't anymore?
I do love... No, I still love money.
You said in the past tense.
Well...
I just have a different
trying to have a different relationship with it. I'm trying not to worship it on high. That's what I'm trying to
One of my favorite saying is, I love adult money.
I love what money can do. I love having enough money so if someone has a problem and you just buy off that problem.
Okay.
So I feel like I'm on the couch for a second.
He's like,
but can we talk about the psychology of money a little bit?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, your story, Robyn, made me think of a friend of mine who, when his kids were young, he implemented what he called the Oreo cookie theory. Now, his boy loved Oreo cookies. And, this was back in the day when you could get the little 6-packs on the, by the register as you would go out in the grocery store. So he applied a value to those cookies. So if a toy came up or whatever, he'd say, Dad, can I have that? And he says, well, is it worth X number of Oreo cookies? And he loved those cookies so much that he would make his decision based on that. So sometimes it was yes, sometimes it was no.
Yeah.
But that's where the association is. And
mine was, how many hours do I have to work to pay for this?
Yeah.
Do I want to work an entire shift for this? Do I want to? So that was it also put me into what really my spending power was.
Sure.
Was my earning power.
So you mentioned, Robyn, 70s and 80s. And now I'm going to reveal something, but imagine being a kid in the 60s who is going who has a paper route, who goes with his mother to the bank every Friday. So she cashes, my dad's check, and I deposit my paper route money in a passbook savings account with the interest for 15 cents gets posted. But, you're learning about compounding interest and savings and this kind of stuff. Nobody goes to a bank anymore. And well, I shouldn't say that, but most people do not. And certainly passbook savings are gone.
Right. I remember passbook savings.
So we've lost that tool to help teach kids. So back in those days, if you wanted something, you saved. So you had a save to buy mentality. I really want this bike. I really want this, like you were saying with your son. So you save to buy it. Then when credit cards came along in the late 80s, that psychology, getting back to your question, turned from save to buy now, pay later.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And it's been that way now for 40 years. And that buy now, pay later thing is even getting worse because now you know what the credit card debt is. That's gone up tremendously given the high inflation over the last year. So this psychology has changed dramatically now. When you, I don't know, you go to Target and you want to buy a toaster for $99, and you go in your wallet and you pull out 5 20s, that hurts.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go to Target and use a card, or a now we'll be doing retinal scans here shortly,
Right,
but
right.
I mean,
Just your phone can buy it.
yeah, so it doesn't hurt as much when you use a card or electronic transaction. So there's where that psychology comes in. And then as it relates to kids, particularly college kids, now, heading off to college with their Venmo accounts or all of this peer-to-peer payment plans that we have, all the psychology of what hurts. I'm going to go out, my friends, for a pizza. We'll split it, right? It's whatever it is, $20. But to give out a $5 bill as opposed to, let me just send you over $5, that psychology has changed everything. So we've lost that attachment to what things are valued at and how much we're willing to pay for it.
Well, I think it changed too a lot. We went to, delayed gratification, and now we live in such a world of instant gratification. I mean, I can have it now, instead of, we haven't taught principles of, but look at marketing too, and commercials, and actually we don't ever watch TV that has commercials on it. And I don't even remember what I watched last night.
It was the election.
Prime.
Oh.
No, we were on Amazon Prime last night, and it was the starting of a show, and it said, one of 8 commercials or something like that, and it made a comment, and I was like, wow, these people paid top dollar to brainwash you. These got the top slots. Like, that's really what it is. You look back at it, because I remember watching it as a kid and like, oh my God, I've got to have the latest Barbie.
Sure.
Or, oh my God, did you see her Barbie car? I got to get that. And she's got a
do
horse.
you remember the first time you would buy a toy that came on your cartoons and it was such a piece of junk that you looked at all ads differently after that? I remember that distinct thing. You got the Etch-a-Sketch that worked not the way they show it. I mean, I
Right.
loved my Etch-a-Sketch, but they showed circles on the Etch-a-Sketch on the television.
Yes.
And if you've ever owned an Etch-a-Sketch, you're making stairs.
Yes.
You're not making circles. Right? So you're immediately like you learned what false advertising was in a moment.
Right.
But look, they get you on hook, line, and sinker. They play all the commercials that put toys in it. Like, how many times did we, and Cracker Jacks? I freaking hated Cracker Jacks, but how many times you got a toy inside. Do they even make toys? Do they put toys inside of cereal now?
I believe so. I
It's
think
been
so.
years since
Yeah.
I bought cereal. I don't like it anyway, but.
Oh, but to talk about, so this is how much marketing has changed too. When you talk about how rapidly things are changing, now Amazon has a QR code. So if you're watching Prime is associated with Amazon. If you want that thing, you just touch that button on the TV and you could buy it automatically on your Amazon account. So talk about the barrier to, I got to go to a store, I have to remember I wanted it. All of those barriers that lead to you spending money are just now this instantaneous and, like you said, electronic way. So when I need to budget differently, or when I'm like, oh, I'm kind of spending money like a drunken sailor, I will spend money in cash only.
Interesting.
Because I immediately am like, whoa. I'm way more price conscious because I'm tactile too. I love the feeling of money.
Yeah.
I had my friend's son wanted money, and I'm like, well, he can come and do some stuff, and I'll give him money. Well, I went to the store and I got the bank, and I got all ones, and so I counted out money to him, and then so he had a fat stack of, and you could just
cash in hand.
You could just see the counting to him counting it once he got it, like. Because that's how I learned about money. And it became and that's the same thing I do when I'm like, all right, I take out cash. And now I'm like, okay, no, I'm not going to buy that because now I'm seeing my stack dwindle in my purse. And groceries are expensive and gas is expensive. When you charge all of that, you get the end of the bill and you're like, how much money did I spend?
Right.
And what did I spend it on?
That's why it's still important to budget, even though currently we can't use that word anymore because it's so old-fashioned.
What do we use in its place?
We use know your flow.
Oh, okay.
Know the money coming in and what's flowing out. Keep track of it all the time. That's what we kind of do. So when was the last time either of you have shopped at Whole Foods?
Recently.
Okay. Have you noticed the pay by palm method?
No.
So when you do the
Old
self-check,
school going in there.
when you do when you go in, do you do self-checkout or do you?
So I know what you're talking about.
I do self-checkout, but I don't have Apple Pay or I don't have Venmo.
You
or
don't
Apple
even need
Pay or
Apple
any of
Pay
that
now.
stuff.
So I have an Amazon account. And my Amazon account is not on my phone, so I thought. But my Whole Foods app, when I put it in, it said, do you want to pay with the card that's attached to the Amazon app?
Yep.
And I was like, I thought I was being so nifty about not keeping any credit card information on my phone, and apparently it's doing it for me.
Sure.
That's crazy. So tell me more. How does it, you just wave your hand and...
So next time you go, promise me, you'll go do the self-checkout. Actually, all the registers have them. And next to where you insert the card is a scanner. It says pay by palm. So you have arranged to have the biometrics of your palm attached to the card, and you can pay that way. And it's becoming more and more popular.
Can you imagine? Like, oh my God, I want that. Ching.
So we talk about psychology.
Yeah.
Now it's too much work to take the wallet out,
Right.
the
And the
card
card
out.
out.
Nobody does the cha-ching anymore, right?
Mhm.
Remember?
Right, because the more that you make it accessible to somebody and
The
easy,
less you think
the
about
less-
it.
Yeah.
So think about it from a 13-year-old's point of view.
Dude, we're going to have so many kids and like, or people in prison for like, or debt. Where do you go? Debt prison when you can't go?
We just came off our National Educator Conference, and it's still reeling in my head.
Jeez.
But our keynote was a gentleman from Austin, Texas, psychologist, Dr. Nicholas Kadaris. He has written a book called Glow Kids, and has the clinical evidence and the research data to show that not only are our kids, our society becoming digitally addicted, that it's actually impacting their brains. And that the average teenager now will spend 7 hours a day on different screens, and how that is impacting that. And we all, like you two, we all shake our heads, say, oh yeah, that's absolutely right, except that we didn't have the clinical evidence for it. And he presented it, and it is jarring. So, as we go forward, I don't know, what does this look like? When I first started with this 25 years ago, the national debt was $6 trillion. We used to talk about that.
Yeah. Because we used to be like, whoa,
Right,
6 trillion, whoa.
Oh my God, we got a T in there.
right. So
Did they even go up that high? Did numbers go up that high?
it's 12 digits, right? Trillion. And I
Is
used
it? I would have to do the math. I'm going to trust you.
you're going to trust me
I
on.
have to write it out and count my zeros.
So just hang on to your chair here for a moment. So if you were to take the Roman calendar 0 and add up all the seconds of time since Roman calendar 0, you will not have reached 1 trillion seconds right now.
Wow.
You won't reach 1 trillion seconds until the year 3035.
God, that's crazy.
Think about how big this number is. And now our debt is up to $35 trillion. So the interest to service that debt has now exceeded what we spend on defense.
Oh.
So at some point, this is unsustainable for the future. And so what does that mean? Who's going to buy the debt? Where do we go from here?
Where do we refinance the debt?
Russia.
Because that's a big thing, right? Can we refinance this debt?
Well, who's going to buy it?
Right.
Federal Reserve, China, India. So, where do you want, who are you going to sell it to? So these are going to be impactful decisions that our kids are going to have to deal with. And so this whole idea of money management.
I do think those children feel very burdened by, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but I think this is a good segue into so many parents and then people going into the workforce and the home buying scenario all talk about this burden, that it's so burdensome. The cost of living is so burdensome that they are unincentivized to actually do anything. Go to work. What's the point?
So what's the alternative?
Being on a government assistance program.
What if that goes away?
Well, but somebody pays for it. What I try to say in all of those programs, and it was such a big thing when we talk about immigration, because, someone has to pay for them coming here. And if they don't have work visas and they can't contribute, and then they find a way to work somehow, they're also not contributing to the tax burden that we all have too. So now you have a group of people not paying taxes. You have another group of people paying the taxes, and then you have another group of people just taking from the system. And sometimes the people who get cash as an employee also get part of the system too. So you start getting like, this boat is going to tip real quick.
Did you know that 40% that the tax revenue in the United States is only done by 40% of Americans? 60% do not pay taxes. So
I know, and a lot of people think that that's the richy rich, like getting out of it. I don't think that's the case.
Yeah, I think
he got a little on the top and a little on the bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah. And well, I know so I'm in real estate and I was in property management. So there's housing vouchers.
Mm-hmm.
And there used to be a huge wait list. You used to have to, they would be a small percentage of your overall portfolio. By the time I stopped property management at the beginning of this year, they were a majority of our portfolio.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's how I know how many more vouchers there are. And I would know that people would be, I remember people used to come and apply and say, well, my boyfriend's going to live here, but he's not on the voucher, so he's not going to fill out a rental app. And I'm like, no, that's fraud. You can go do that elsewhere,
right.
or not tell people
right.
what you're planning on doing. But we would have these scenarios where someone would be living there with a number of people, and then other people would move into the house, and you'd report them, and the housing subsidy will be like, well, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, but that's not the point. They have 3 working people in their house paying them money while I'm going to work and paying taxes to pay them.
Sure.
Right.
To have it so at some point it becomes resentment of taking from the people who also feel like it's just as hard for me to make money.
Right.
I'm sacrificing. I'm working 3 jobs. I'm getting AFib from my bad. So there's a part if everyone's not contributing to their capacity. Not everyone's going to contribute to the same capacity, but we all need to contribute into the system. So when I hear from people that they feel like their college debt is too much, their living expenses are too much, the groceries are too much, the electric bill is too much, their car payments are too much, how would they possibly buy a house? That's a regular thing that I hear all the time. Is someone in your position, what is your response to, I'll never be able to afford a house?
A comment like that indicates no hope.
Yes.
And that's not in my DNA. So to me, there's always a solution, and there's always hope for some rectification. But I will say that this current housing situation is unlike anything I've ever seen. Because if you recall, back in the 90s, real estate crash was mostly multifamilies. And again, I was in banking back then. So how did it recover? Well, it recovered when all these banks took over properties, and they had all of this Rio assets on their books and had to dump it, so the prices come flying down. For me, mortgage lending, housing is always a 2-step process, meaning 1, the cost, and 2, the interest rate. So I don't get too worked up about interest rates. I bought my first house in 1979 at 11%. Now, the cost was down, right? So that payment, it's just a simple math exercise. Well, today, if we're freaking out over rates at 6%, almost half of what I paid, but the average house is $450, who's going to afford that?
Right.
So somehow that real estate, that cost crash, that bubble has yet to be broken. And I'm really puzzled as to how it'll be, because so many people in this last decade bought houses at 3-4%. They're not likely to unload those if the rate is 6 or 7. And great that I can make $200,000 on my house, but now I got to go spend $300 more to live somewhere.
And that's where the inventory problem really comes in.
It is.
People have these large houses that they would like to downsize. They don't need them anymore. The kids graduated. But where else are they going to go? And why would they get rid of this loan at 3% or 4% and go take one at 7% when the price also went up?
Right.
So it keeps the inventory strangled, too. But one of the things that I was thinking is, I bought my first house in 1996, I think. Again, at these crash prices, and I remember everyone at my job was saying to me, you don't buy real estate now, it's in the toilet. And I'm like, I think that's when you buy, actually, is when it's in the toilet. I don't think I want to buy when it's on a hill.
Yeah.
I think I want to buy. And to me, I was paying rent anyways.
Right.
So I was getting nothing for rent, but I could at least have a house.
Right.
and I could have stability, and my rent was going up so much, and all of this other stuff.
People don't, but we're not teaching our kids to understand like equity and compound interest and simple interest and, time to buy. Like we bought our house 98, 99, first house, and we were thrilled that it was like 8.5%.
Sure.
Yes.
I mean, and now we
That's
did happen
perspective.
to, yeah, because we thought that was good. I mean, that was great actually, because they were coming down, and then we ended up, our next house, I think that between the time that we sold that and bought our next house, I think we were at 4. And I think right now we just closed at like, was it 3.75 on ours? And you're right, I don't know what the interest rates would be now, but it would definitely, it prices people out.
It would almost double your.
Well, so my question, not to change the subject, is, but do you guys work with the school systems to like try to integrate? Like, see, I'm an advocate of like, we need to teach our kids life skills.
Every single year.
We need to teach them how to balance a checkbook. I don't care if it's old school, keep it balanced. You need to teach them that not all debt is bad debt. Knowing how to leverage, how to spend your money, how to save your money, and how to plan for your future. Like when you just said, it's, you said it's not in your vocabulary. I'm like, yeah, no, it's not in my vocabulary either. Like, I didn't hear the rest of what he said. I just heard no. But the thing is, we're because of this, because I think that this instant gratification, buy now, have it now, pay later mentality is, and even kind of post-COVID, that we don't really have to work for it. We're raising these generation of saying like, it's not worth my time.
I also
It's
think
not worth my
parents
time. I have
don't
to work
like,
for it. Like if I want to get a house, like there's nothing going to stop me. If I have to work 4 jobs to get it, I'm going to work 4 jobs to get it. And they're like, what? You're raising people to like, no, I'm not going to do what it takes to get it. So yeah, you can have it. It's just how bad do you want it?
Well, part of that, too, comes about from the Great Recession, in 07, 08.
I was actually going to talk about that with housing.
Okay, so the kids watched their parents, some parents, actually, that was the whole subprime lending madness. So they saw their parents lose their homes. And that group really became aware of the importance of saving and managing money. Since then, I mean, that's now going on 17 years. So since then, a whole other generation of kids are viewing things so differently. But to answer your question about what we do, for the longest time, New Hampshire was the only state in New England that had a graduation requirement for economics. So every kid that went through public high school had to take an economics course. And embedded in that requirement, and this is getting into the weeds a little bit, but embedded in that requirement was a standard for personal finance based on the National Jumpstart Standards. I brought that to the Department of Ed in 1986. They adopted it, and so it's part of it.
That's awesome.
Right. So one would say, right, that it's over. We've accomplished it. Every kid who graduates, from school has economics, and every kid has to, by default, take personal finance. Well, I learned a few years later that not all schools in New Hampshire offer economics, even though it's a requirement. So I said, so what's that about? Because again, from banking, you put a requirement on us. There's an audit function.
Right.
There's
Right.
there's some consequence
There's
for
a list of
inaction.
consequences.
Right. There's all this kind of stuff. So it wasn't the case. So we began in 2013 to look at who teaches what in the state of New Hampshire. And there's no central repository for that. So the only way to do that is to go through each high school's website, download their program of studies, and identify what is what. Well, this is a state of local control. So what's taught in Littleton's not taught in Nashua.
Right.
And I get that to a certain extent, but there are some things that I think are universal, and this is one, this life skill that you're talking about. So in 2013, we found that there were 3 school districts that offered a standalone personal finance course requirement for graduation in their district, in addition to the state economics requirement. That was Bedford, that was Newfound, and that was Hinsdale. Now, you think about Hinsdale and you think about Bedford, 2 socioeconomically different places. Hinsdale at that time was the highest percentage of free lunch. Bedford, we know, is on the affluent side. So it isn't about resource. It's about community will, and those communities wanted that taught. So fast forward to today. So we've been doing this study every other year, and we'll probably release the new results here shortly. But in 2023, after many years of screaming from the rooftop, Governor Sununu signed a bill 1671, House Bill 1671, and it required that personal finance be included as part of the definition of an adequate education. Now, I thought that was brilliant because most states hate mandates. Most school, administrators hate mandates. And up until then, there were 23 states in the United States that had a graduation requirement for just personal finance. Why I thought this was so clever is because the definition or that adequate education definition has dollars attached. So the district has to prove to the state that they are meeting the definition of an adequate education in order to get the funding. I thought brilliant. So we checked last summer, and that was to go into effect in September of 23 academic year. So last year or rather this year, we did a review. Who's teaching what? Only 21% of the high schools were meeting the law, meaning offering a standalone course in personal finance. So why is that? I don't know, but I'm very upset about it because, if it's part of the law, again, from an audit function and an accountability and a consequence, why isn't this being followed?
Right.
Now, they'll push back. They being school districts will say, we don't have enough teachers, we don't have enough resources, the expenses and, all of this stuff. Well, the beauty about the Jumpstart Coalition is the national organization has a clearinghouse of teaching resources, over 600 different types of teaching resources.
Wow.
Over 40% of them can be downloaded for free.
Oh, wow.
There's
so you don't even need to make a curriculum. You could just copy one.
You can just download this curriculum. There's a great organization out there called Next Gen Personal Finance. They're essentially owning the landscape as it relates to curriculum. So it's there. I know since 2000 when we got started, our approach has always been the fastest rate to reach kids, and that's our end game is the kids, is to train teachers. So every year we have had and continue to have a statewide conference for teachers, introducing them to resources. They get a chance to network with themselves.
Can't they make that mandatory for like their, continuing ed?
Sure,
credits?
we give them professional development hours to attend.
Because I'm like, you could drop like chemistry, Not all kids are going to go to need chemistry in there, or just one of the things. Like I was trying to think some of the classes that my kids were taking, and I'm like, oh my God, they'll never use that.
Sure. Well, the argument's always made about algebra.
Yes.
But
no, we need algebra.
But
we might not. I think we need algebra.
But
well, she's a math person.
Okay.
So.
Well, what would you say about financial algebra?
Love it.
But that's
So
what
that's
I'm saying.
available?
Like, why couldn't you incorporate that into your math, into math
Absolutely
classes?
can.
Like that seems like such a simple.
Well, that's where it is because it is math.
But here's the problem.
It is instead of like.
We're not in the classroom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you are a teacher today, and believe me when I say this, we are losing teachers by the boatload who are either retiring, fed up, can't deal with it, and what's the driving reason? It's not the money.
COVID.
No, it's
Okay.
not that either. It's
Politics.
It's child behavior,
Oh.
parental behavior,
Oh.
and lack of administrative support.
Oh.
So, you want an
believe that.
interesting conversation? Bring some of the teachers. I'll give you the names of some teachers
I
that
would
would
love that.
love to have some
Yeah.
conversations with you.
Oh,
about
yeah,
it.
I'd love
It's just
to.
changed so dramatically.
Well, we had a comedian who used to be a teacher and he quit teaching. He said COVID was just the end for him. And he, New England dad, and now he's doing comedy. His wife always was going to be, was always the career person. And they knew at some point he would stay home with kids. And he said just teaching was just, he had lost interest.
Yeah. It's hard, but yet, my wife's in the school system as a para, and she loves seeing the light bulb go off, and that's what drives the teachers.
Yeah.
So I can tell you sitting here after 25 years, teachers want to teach it, students want to learn it. It's all about community will. So what does that mean? So, it means that if parents were to go to their school boards and say, we want a standalone personal finance class in our district, they would do it. Resources
Yeah.
are there. I'm giving you
Free resources.
free resources and training for the teachers. And
It's like a gift. Like, so I remember my kids were sitting around the table. We had to come up with these, sayings. They had to memorize every country, or every country on continent, every country in Africa. Like, they have the whole thing all spread out. And I'm like, why do you need to know this information? You guys know more history about Africa than you do about your own country. And that's what's being taught in the schools. Like, why are we learning so much about African history when we're not learning about our U.S. history? Replace all that stuff with personal finance.
yeah, U.S. history is
actual
now
life skills.
U.S. history is now in many schools integrated with English, so there's no more
Yes.
separate,
And that's crazy.
issues.
I loved history
Yeah.
because I feel like, how do you know where you're going if you don't know
Well, my-
Where you've been.
Yeah.
How do you not repeat your mistakes?
My nephew is in a
Well, let's just erase them.
private school, and they're teaching them math. And so we were over there last Thursday, and he was needing math help. And now everything is divided by 10, this new math. So they don't teach them addition. Everything is a word problem. So 12 minus 7 is now a word problem that says find 10 and then do this whole. And it was so convoluted that we actually had a YouTube how to come up with the answer. That I'm like, oh, it's just
we did
5.
that. I mean, my
the
kids were
answer's
like-
just 5. Like, what is happening here?
I'm like,
why are we bringing 10 into the
I
equation?
remember trying to help my kids, and she's like, "That's not the way you do it." I'm like, "But that's the answer." I don't know how you do that. I mean, like, it's literally, 6 minus 4 is 2.
Like,
and
I
you
don't know why
gotta complicate it. Like,
I know.
we're complicating stuff.
Why did we change math?
Right, math is math.
Math is math.
I hear
know.
you.
And that thing that upset me about that was, could you take?
I always hated word problems.
Well, that's the thing is, it's like, I know how to do this, and I don't know how to do this at the moment. That's a problem. And I was like, why are we doing everything to 10? I guess, it maybe multiplication will be easier, but why are we? And maybe their brains are younger as a sponge, and they found out if they teach this one method now. Like, I don't know, but the kids don't seem to be any more intelligent for it. So I don't know what changing the core curriculum and then not using, again, the life skill portion.
Pardon the interruption. They're coming to get us.
Come and get me.
Yeah. But I do know that when you, because we're going to go to the top of the hour, we have about 10 minutes, 9 or 10 minutes, but I would like to talk a little bit more about know your flow versus budgeting, because I still use the word budget.
Sure.
I think budget is an important term because we have a limited amount of money. We have a limited amount of time. We have resources. Everything is within a structure of limitation.
Mm-hmm.
Not in a bad way,
Right.
but in a way to know everything isn't this unlimited piece. So you have to pick and choose your needs and wants more wisely if you know that it is limited. Even if you said you have I used to do this with people because it just became my little fun thing to do. People would come in and they would say, "Oh, I want a really good deal." And you'd say, "Okay, what's your price point?" Money doesn't matter if it's a good deal. I would pick the most expensive thing. That was a good deal. Here's a house for $10 million. It should be worth $20 million. Buy it. And they'd be like, "Oh no, it's like $450,000." I'm like, "Okay, we had a budget."
Right, there's your limit.
Right.
But you don't impress me by saying if it's a great deal, anything could happen.
Right.
And it's like, because that's really not the answer.
Right.
We all have it, and there's no embarrassment in whatever that number is.
Right.
Whatever that number is, that's what we have. Let's get you the best thing we can get you for that amount. And that's the exciting thing, is getting the deal at $450.
Sure.
But
But there's your emotion again. There's your psychology again.
yes. Yeah.
It's always there.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, obviously you two like to shop.
Yes.
So what's the first thing you do? Do you look at style? Do you look at size? Or do you look at price? And in what order is that? And then, say you go, oh, you're thinking, Robyn.
Wait, I don't know. He got me on a good one.
So let's say price is the last. You love the style.
Mm-hmm.
It's in your size.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, is it really worth that? That's the emotion going through you.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
So my
What
mom
teaching
always said,
kids?
if you're going to walk away and have regrets, you should buy it.
How are you going to know the
That's
regret
my
until after you
thermometer.
get home?
Well, I know sometimes if I walk down the store, like for the skirt, for example, here's good. I didn't look at the price because we had gone back. So she and I are in Florida a couple weeks ago, and we went to a glass blowing class. And we had stopped into this cute little shop, and she had picked up this skirt, and she was like, "Oh my God, it's so cute! It's so cute." I think you had also talked me into another. So I bought 2 dresses that night, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, we need to go back." So we went back, and she held up that skirt again. She's like, "You need to try that on."
It was in the $5 or $15 rack. There was a rack that said $15 and one that said $5. So
Yes.
so that's how I was like, it doesn't matter, buy it. It's
Right.
cheaper than coffee.
That one was.
How funny is it that you felt the need to tell me that?
Well, that's how I knew like she should buy it because I already knew it came off the cheap rack.
Yes.
If it fit her, if it fit
Well,
me, I would have bought it.
Then we're in a hurry. And I'm like, okay, I'm just like, I don't know. I was caught in a euphoric state. Like,
Impulsive?
well, we had dinner. Well, we had dinner reservations.
Wait a second. Impulsive?
Yes. Don't you remember that frenzy? I was like, tried on
I just
like
wanted him
6.
to hear it.
I tried on 6 dresses, and I think I bought 4 and the skirt. Like, not even looking at the price because I'm like, oh, I love that. I love that. She liked it. I'm getting it. I'm getting it. Like,
Did you pay an additional fee for your luggage when you flew home?
no, we divided it out.
Okay.
She had extra room in hers, and I put some in my carry-ons.
That sounds impulsive too.
Yeah.
It was impulsive, but I don't usually shop. I don't usually shop like that. But the first thing I come through is it a style? Then I negotiate with myself. Can I afford this? It kind of goes to the need to the want. Can I
Yep.
afford this?
It does.
Yeah, this is pretty reasonable. I mean, I've walked away from a few things. If not, I'm like, all right, I got to figure out how I'm going to get this. And then I will work to save it,
Okay.
save until I do get it. So there are, I think we're all that get caught in that impulsive
Sure.
buy. Anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt your.
Yeah,
Yes.
to go on to
that's awesome.
to go into that whole conversation, I will not go shopping if I know I don't have money. Because why am I torturing myself?
Yes.
I will not. I will avoid the activity.
Mm-hmm.
And when we first bought our house, my husband was like, the first year is like, do you want presents or do you want decorations for the house? Then the next year it was, do you want to go somewhere or do you want presents? And then it became, I want to go somewhere. And then that became a foundation for even when we could afford to buy presents. I know because I sort of habituated myself to taking a trip, and that's just how I remembered Christmas. Every Christmas I could tell you because we either went to a place or we went skiing or we did a thing or, there was some adventure component or like an experience component that I've tried to bring. Can't tell you how many times for families would be like, hey, no one buy any gifts. Let's just go skiing for the day. Or just
Yes.
because memories to me are financially worthwhile.
Sure.
Experiences.
Where we all have what we want. I'm not poor. I have what I want. I buy what I want.
So not to interrupt your flow. Like we do have those neurodivergent thoughts every once in a while that just have to come
Wow.
out. Like,
That hurt.
that's me all the time. I'm like, wait, I got to tell you my skirt story.
Holy smokies. There are some things you're just not going to be able to unremember, aren't you?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying you stepped into the water when you talked about retail because that's,
Sure.
we
But-
love clothes.
But that's a perfect example because when I go to the grocery store, I don't feel like I'm having as much fun spending the money that I do when I go into a clothing store.
True.
And
Do you worry about pricing anymore in the
I
grocery
do
store?
because I wrote a cookbook, right?
Okay.
So I had to do. I'm intimately knowledgeable about what everything costs, to the point where I know the store differences. Like when I need olive oil, I will go to a Market Basket. I will never buy olive oil at a Hannaford or a Whole Foods because it's twice as much.
Okay.
And
Yes.
the thing that I am very sensitive is in 2020, say, a giant container of olive oil, which I always buy these gold giant container, was $17.99. Now it's over $40.
Wow.
So because I was shopping to test for recipes and doing all that stuff, plus I entertain, so you're spending money and you're just watching it double or triple. And now you're starting to, I'm not paying that for that. Like for a while, I was like, I'm not buying ice cream. because we had $3.99 Haagen-Dazs, and then some stores charge $9.99 or $7.99 for it. And you start getting, do I really need it? We had this discussion on the radio. Canada Dry, a 12-pack of Canada Dry, 2 for $5. You could get them on sale. It was $9.99.
Yeah.
And then at another store was $7.99. And I said, do we really need this for $8? It's just junk.
Right.
So you start getting, and that's a little bit of inflation, definitely, but also raping of pricing because they know they have you.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? Not buy it? My answer is I'm not going to buy it.
Not today.
And Whole Foods, I have psoriasis, so I buy this very like chemical-free soap, and it used to be $9.99. In COVID, it was $9.99. Then it went up to like some other price, $13, $14, and then they were trying to charge over $20 for it, and I can only get it at Whole Foods. So I have a stack of them. I always get them, a few at a time. Then I was like, I'm not buying it, and then I watched it come down. Now it's like $17. But if you don't buy it, they can put it on the end cap. But if you don't buy it on the end cap for more money, you have to know what some stuff costs.
Sure.
Right.
Because you're not going to know when they're just putting it on the end cap and charging you $4 more for it.
Sure.
Right. So this cheese, Yancey's Fancy.
Oh,
you
we're
know
going
what?
to come to the top of the hour. We'll come back to it. Hold on 1 second. You're listening to Lisa and Robyn on the mic on WSMN, 1590 AM, 95.3 FM. You can watch, stream, and listen on WSMN.live. We are in the studio with Dan Hebert, and he is from the Jumpstart Coalition, and we are talking personal finances. We will come back to the top of the hour. Maybe we're not going to the top of the hour. Is this clock right?
I don't know. It says it's 11. Well, I have 11:58. That one says 11:59.
Okay, so tell your
Anyway, so
cheese
real
story.
quick, the fancy cheese. So first time I walked into, I like that cheese. They have a smoked Gouda. It's soft. It's creamy. I like the texture, everything about it. And I usually will buy it at Market Basket, and it's usually $4.99. And I go in and I just go to grab the cheese at Whole Foods, and I'm like, it's $9.99.
Wow.
This was a couple
Same
of
amount?
It's the same cheese.
Wow.
$4.99, and it's still $4.99 at Market Basket.
Wow.
So it's sometimes we get so caught up in paying for labels.
And convenience.
Well, but I've got to shop at Whole Foods because, it's my prestige. No, I don't.
Okay.
I'm going to save myself $5 and buy something else.
Well, next time you do pay by palm, I'll see what your reaction is to that.
Yes.
Stay
We'll be back.
tuned. We'll come to the top of the hour. Stay tuned.